All right, welcome. Today, we're diving into a framework that, honestly, could completely change how you manage your next project, whether that's growing mushrooms, tending a garden, or really any biological system. We're going to learn how to stop constantly fighting fires and actually start designing for success right from the get-go.
So, has this ever happened to you? You've got this amazing, thriving mushroom culture, maybe a perfect looking garden, everything seems to be going great. And then, bam, almost overnight, the whole thing just collapses. It is so frustrating, right? And it always feels like it came out of absolutely nowhere. But what if the real problem, the thing that's actually causing the failure, is happening where you can't even see it?
You see, the source material for this explainer argues that we're basically fighting the wrong war. We spend all our time and energy reacting to the problems we can see. A bit of mold here, a pest there. But the fate of our system? That was decided long before, in these tiny, unseen microbial battles happening just below the surface. Our constant reactive fixes are actually making things worse in the long run.
Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial idea, a total paradigm shift. It's all about moving away from being a reactive firefighter, constantly putting out blazes, to becoming a proactive architect, someone who designs an environment where those fires just can't start in the first place.
And this, right here, this is the aha moment. This shows the two paths so clearly. On the left, you've got that firefighter mindset. You see a problem, like a mold bloom, and you spray something on it. It's a temporary fix, sure, but it often just creates resistance, leading to a vicious cycle of bigger and bigger problems. But then look at the right. That's the architect. They're engineering the environment from the very start. It's a proactive approach that builds long-term stability and, get this, requires way less work down the line.
So this architect's approach, well, the source calls it the true gambit. And it's not just a single tactic, it's a whole framework for preemptive environmental design. Think of this as your playbook for building a system that's not just successful, but resilient and self-regulating.
And that playbook is built on these four pillars. First up, stabilization. You've got to create a rock-solid foundation. Second is selection bias, basically making the environment perfect for the good guys you want and totally hostile to the bad guys you don't. Third, observation. You have to be paying attention. And finally, minimal intervention, acting smart and strategically, not just reacting all the time. So let's see how this actually works. The first, and I'd argue the most critical step, is designing your environment. This is where you flip the script. You stop reacting, and you start dictating the terms. You are literally setting the rules of the game before any of the players even show up. And these are your controls. Think of these 5 things as the main levers you get to pull: moisture, temperature, airflow, nutrients, and the physical structure of the substrate itself. By carefully setting these parameters, you are essentially stacking the deck in your favor. You're deciding ahead of time which organisms are going to thrive and which ones are going to have a really bad time. You're engineering for success from day one. Okay, now let's get practical and apply this to one of the most critical parts of the whole system, the substrate. This is the foundation for pretty much any fungal or plant system. And if this foundation is unstable, believe me, the entire project is doomed before it even starts. And the stakes here are incredibly high. I mean, this quote from the monograph is so powerful because it's just so direct. If you mess up your substrate prep, you create what's called an anaerobic environment, basically a place with no oxygen. And that is the perfect breeding ground for a catastrophic pathogen bloom. It's game over. So, how do we prevent that total collapse? Well, the source gives us a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First, you absolutely have to aerate your raw materials to get oxygen deep inside. Second, you add structure, things like wood chips or perlite, to create little air pockets that keep it aerated. And third, and this is key, you stabilize by letting the material just settle and do its thing before you use it. Preparation really is everything. So once your environment is designed and your foundation stabilized, the whole game changes. Now, it's all about playing the long game. And that requires 2 final crucial things: observation and memory. Now, after all this talk about complex environmental engineering, you'd probably think the most powerful tool for long-term control is some fancy sensor or some potent chemical, right? But what the monograph points to is something way, way simpler. Yep, a simple ledger. A notebook. So why? Because biological systems are smart. They adapt. And without keeping records of your environmental conditions, what you did and what happened, microbial adaptation will always be one step ahead of you. You'll never catch up. By recording data, you're creating a system memory. And it's that memory that lets you predict and control what's going to happen next. And here it is, the payoff, right here, side by side. Just look at the reactive system. Stability goes down over time. You have to intervene more and more, and its resilience is basically zero. It's just waiting to collapse. Now, look at the gambit system. It actually stabilizes and strengthens over time. Your interventions go down, and it becomes self-regulating. You've built a thriving ecosystem, not just another high-maintenance project. This final quote just wraps it all up perfectly. The whole philosophy isn't about brute force or quick fixes. It's about the disciplined shaping of an environment, creating a memory for your system through observation, and then using all that knowledge to guarantee stability. So this leaves us with one last thought. This framework is obviously incredibly powerful for growing things, but the principles, they apply to so much more. So think about it. What environment in your own life, maybe it's a project at work, a team dynamic, or even a personal habit, could you start designing with intention instead of just constantly trying to control?